Hi, and welcome back to DIY with Jeannie, and Happy New Year. Happy 2024. This is going to be the year of sewing. I want to get better at sewing. I want to try making clothes this year. I want to try retrofitting patterns. I have made clothes before and I have sewed before, but I tend to be a little impatient, and I don't really, since I'm self-taught and it was prior to the internet, I don't always know exactly what I'm doing. So, having said that, we are going to go through some basics. And so today we're going to start very small. I'm going to start with a bookmark today, a corner bookmark. Then we're going to make a book sleeve that I can not only have my book in, but I also want to be able to carry my journal and a pen in the same sleeve and have enough room for it all to be in there. But I don't want a laptop bag. I want to be able to throw it in a bag and not have everything get all messed up, because there's nothing worse than having your journal, which you are doing your best to actually do this year, trying, but to have it get all messed up. So I hate the pages all folded and all crinkly, and it's a thing. So what we are going to make today is this type of bookmark, and this bookmark fits on the corner of a page. So you just slide it on, and there is your spot. And it is cushiony, and it knows where I am, and I don't have to worry too much about it, and it should stay on pretty well. So there is the bookmark that we're going to make today. And what you need to make it is 3 squares of fabric, 1 square of interfacing. Now I used medium weight, you could use lightweight, a triangle of interfacing, and of the 3, having one different gives you that corner, but you don't have to. It could all be the same, and I've seen it all the same where they just alter it, the directionality of it, and it kind of gives it a funky look, and I really like that. So the first thing that we're going to do is iron our fabric. Always iron your fabric first. And things that I'm also learning to do and not cut corners is to make sure all of my fabric is washed. So I wash it prior to doing anything with it, and that's why it is wrinkly. That's also one of the reasons why it has strings all over it. Well, that and the fact that I tear it and don't cut it. Now, I somewhere along the way have lost both my rotary cutters. That's 2. And because of that, I'm going to be tearing until I get a new rotary cutter, because these don't work with necessarily really well with the type of squares that I use. I use the plastic squares that you rotary cut around, and yeah, when you don't have a rotary cutter, it makes that a wee bit more challenging. So right now we're just cutting off these strings. I will clean it up as we sew it, but once we have it cleaned up at least a little bit, so make it easier to sew, we will go to the sewing machine and sew our triangle. I want to sew across so that we have a nice crisp edge like you see here. It keeps it nicely folded. It gives it that look, that crisp look, that crisp line. Let's put it back in there. Look at that. And then we're going to make our sandwich, and I'll go over all of that at the sewing machine. So this year we have a number of things that are changing. One, a little more sewing involved, and I also have this set up so that we will have the ability for y'all to watch as I sew. So we'll have that set up, and you'll be able to see that. Then, these don't work with necessarily really well with the type of squares that I use. I use the plastic squares that you rotary cut around, and yeah, when you don't have a rotary cutter, it makes that a wee bit more challenging. So right now we're just cutting off these strings. I will clean it up as we sew it, but once we have it cleaned up at least a little bit, so make it easier to sew, we will go to the sewing machine and sew our triangle. I want to sew across so that we have a nice crisp edge like you see here. It keeps it nicely folded. It gives it that look, that crisp look, that crisp line. Let's put it back in there. Look at that. And then we're going to make our sandwich, and I'll go over all of that at the sewing machine. So this year we have a number of things that are changing. One, a little more sewing involved, and I also have this set up so that we will have the ability for y'all to watch as I sew. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do is take our square with the pattern, go and fold it in half, and I put medium weight interfacing on the inside, and I'm going to sew along this edge so that we have a overlapping seam, so when it goes on the book itself, it will not catch on the page. It'll help it stay where I want it to stay. So I am going to do a 1/4 inch seam. Start. Let's see. Are we able to see that? Yeah, there we go. So I did get a new camera. Well, I didn't get a new camera. I did get a new setup, so that you can see me sew it. Thread. And now I'm going to cut the strings off. Because I don't need all those little strings on there. You always want to cut your thread off. And if you do it while you're working, it helps at the end. Trust me, things I've learned. So that is going to be the inside. Alright, now we're going to make a sandwich. So we have 2 of our back squares, and our bookmark is going to look basically like this, so it can slide on the page. This will be on the page. So what we want to do is take our medium weight interfacing, and these are not perfect squares right now, and they don't have to be right now, because what I want to do is I will square it up after I'm finished. And then we're going to take and just make a little, goodness, I have thread everywhere. We're going to make a little bookmark sandwich. So I want this to be the outside. I just like the way it looks better. Put it down, make sure we get that on there really well. Alright, now I can go ahead and mark where I want our seams to be. And you can do it 2 ways. Since I'm turning it inside out, it does not have to be, the lines don't have to go away. So, make it brown and our little square. So, we have our square. Put it on that angle so that that angle is squared up, so I can see it through there. What I want to do is, come on square, there we go. Draw our seam in here. There. The other end. Line it back up. And again we have our squares lined up. I'm going to do there. And then this one, I just need that square lined up. So see, I'm doing it on the same marking here. So I don't have to keep it on the diagonal because I know it's going to be correct on the diagonal. So there we go. And we want to sew along those lines. But before I go crazy, because I have done this and would have to tear it out, I want to leave an opening so that we can turn it right side out. And then we'll go back and sew that. So let's... I'm just following that line that we drew. Let's raise the foot, but I want to keep the needle down, and that lets me pivot it so that we stay in the fabric where we want it. We stay on that corner so it stays sharp. I want to back stitch there because I'm going to be putting a lot of force on that. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. Go forward. Even though it will do a couple of stitches by itself, my machine does, I still like to make sure that I do those back stitches just to be extra cautious. Again, part of the way up, pivot. Now we're going to take and cut our corners, and I'm just going to cut some of the bulk off right here. I just put an angle in. Cut. Do not cut your little seam that you made. That's bad. I'm going to go ahead and cut. Well, that is already cut. Good job. Again, we want to cut that corner. I'm going to cut some of this bulk off. This bulk off. Corner. See, and we didn't cut all the way in. Not that it would have mattered because we do plan on going around one more time, but I just prefer to not do that. I'm going to take some of the bulk off this edge because as we fold it in, we don't want to have to deal with that. But I'm going to leave it right here because that is where we have to fold it back in. There we go. I'm done with that. Now we want to turn this right side up. And that is going to be hard because I made it too tiny, I think. Well, I didn't, but, you know, for me I did. So all we have to do is get it started. Once it's started, you can pull it through. There it is. If you leave your little opening a little bigger, this goes a lot faster. It's also more to sew and make sure you get straight later. So it's kind of one of those double-edged swords. Doesn't really matter which side we put out. Give me just a second, I need to get a tool. Okay, I bought this. It is a point turner, and I got it specifically for things like this. Actually, anything that has corners. But what you can do is you can use the corner edge so that I can make sure that all of my seams are good. But then turn it out and get that last point. Now, I have seen people do this with straight pins, and I just do not trust myself enough not to bleed on the cloth, because that is a stain that is uber difficult to get out. Let's get that finished. Like so. Do our bottom corner. Do our bottom corner. And here is our bookmark. It's not finished. I'm going to take it over here and iron it. Okay, we have it ironed. It's beautiful. The corners are done. Now what we're going to do is sew a seam around the edges similar to this one. And that will, one, close up the hole that we left to turn. And there is our little bookmark. So let's take it over and do a final press. Why are you? Okay. Do a final press on it and check it with a book. We do our final iron. Doesn't really need, once you do your final iron prior to stitching around this edge, you don't really have to iron it again. I just like to make sure I get all the edges nice and crisp. Don't have to worry too much about it. Not that I have to worry about it anyway. It's not like we're going to wash this one. It is going to be, like I say, a bookmark, and they don't get exceptionally dirty, and if they do, we're not going to stick them back in the book anyway. So this is our first project of the year, just this nice simple bookmark. After this, we will do a book pouch. That is my plan for our next video, and we'll move on from there up to bigger and bigger things, and that is kind of my goal. I want to do some more bags. I love this. This is a Japanese knot bag, and it is a keychain one, and sewing around these little circles here is a work in progress. So we're going to make a bigger Japanese knot bag that you can actually carry your groceries in. And then maybe we will come back to that small one. Because I love the shape, did not love the sewing. I think a lot of it's going to have to be hand sewn next time. So that is another thing that we'll be doing. And I am going to be keeping up with our projects that we do in my little project planner. Oh, let me see where's, there we go. My project planner. And so I keep my drawings on here. We'll be making the cup cozy, except the cup cozy will have a handle. So if you're like me, you come in from going to a grocery store or whatever, going to fast food, and you have 2 or 3 drinks that you might need to carry in. And with that handle, you can put them all over your arm and they can come in and you don't really have to worry about juggling that. There is also one for the cardboard caddy, but making it with cloth instead. So that is another one that I'm looking at having us work on. So the intention is to be more mindful of disposable things so that we don't use things that are easily thrown away. We use things that we can use over and over again. That's a big thing. I'd like for us to be more conscious of that. I will be telling you when I get fabric. This fabric, the angels, I got at Goodwill. So you can always find yardage at a thrift store if you feel like, well, I don't have a good, fabric store around. Check a thrift store. I got this actually at the Goodwill bins and paid $1.49 a pound for it. So it was not a pound for the amount I got, and I probably got 2 yards. So I got that from the Goodwill bins. This, I believe, I bought at a regular either Goodwill or Savers. Some I buy a lot of fat quarters. I got, this fabric came from Joann's, but this fabric came from Goodwill. So this will be our book bag. So that is one thing that we'll be doing. And I'll be making probably a quilted cover for that. I have 2 different book bags that I'll be making, which I'm kind of excited to get started on. And that'll get us going. I have vintage patterns that I want to go back and do. So that is where we are headed this year. But it doesn't mean we won't do other things as well, because I also have my paper crafts, my junk journals, my Cricut, which I love my Cricut. I think we can do some things with the Cricut also in our sewing, which should be fun. But yeah, that's where we're headed this year. 2024 is going to be the year of the intentions of just doing a better job, being more frugal, more conscientious of what I do. I also have a really cute pattern for an apron that I want to do, and it is using a men's shirt. Then I'll be buying that men's shirt at either Goodwill, Savers, or the bins. So watch for that. It should be a fairly simple, straightforward. We're using the buttons that are already on it. We're going to repurpose pockets and things like that, so it should be a lot of fun. So if this sounds like something that you're interested in, please think about subscribing. For those of you who are a subscriber already, thank you and welcome back. It is good to have you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.